I'm Ryan Betson.
I'm Max Cooper.
And this is our review discussion of Gotham Knights. Now, we couldn't do this just by ourselves, because like any good superhero team, like any good Bat family, you bring others in. And that's what we have done. For a gentleman that we met at a party sipping beers, it's Dudi. Hello, man.
I'm good, man. How you guys doing?
I'm very, very well. How are you,
I'd feel outraged she's introduced you as our sidekick. Nah, that's cool, man. Everyone's got to start as a sidekick. Like, that's how people get into the game.
Nightwing was a sidekick.
I'd rather be a sidekick than a butler.
That's right. Nightwing was a sidekick. He's running that shit now.
Yeah,
he's doing just fine. You know what I'm saying?
He's doing just fine.
But for those that don't know, give us a spiel, Dudi. Who are you and how do you fit in all this?
Oh, shit. Who am I? I am the once great powerful Mushu. I am a mediocre YouTuber. You can search me by just typing in Dudi, D-U-D-I. The logo is Piccolo and Tien fused together in a Dragon Ball Z merge fusion. So that's my thing. I talk about video games. I talk about even if it's a crap game, there's something good inside of it. So I try to go down that sort of area.
Very nice. Well, yeah, you said you're a lower tier YouTuber. Well, we're a lower tier podcast, so it balances out quite nicely.
No such thing, man. No such thing as a lower tier podcast because all podcasts are rad.
Oh, that's a nice way to put it. But yeah, so as I said, we are here to play to discuss Gotham Knights. Now, we should also mention big thank you to the team over at Play on ANZ for not just allowing us to all meet in a location, sip beers, and get to know each other, but also play this game. So we've been Max and I've been playing on PS5. You were playing on PC, yeah?
Yeah, I was on the PC.
Yeah, so we're going to talk there about all these extra frames that you have that we just don't.
There's a story for that, yeah.
But yeah, so we'll look forward to breaking down this game a little bit further. But it's part of the reason we wanted to have you on Dudi because after you, I'm like, I got to work with this guy, something fierce. But you are like a font of knowledge when it comes to not just comic books, but DC specifically. Because the first thing I noticed when we met was your incredible sleeve of DC tattoos. The whole point of Justice League, and I was like, oh yeah, fuck yeah. And yeah. And then if you guys want to be able to see it in the crop of the frame, but behind Dudi is an incredible that way. Statues and you name it, all these awesome Batman pieces of love. So you were the right person to talk Gotham Knights.
I mean, I am a nerd. That's what I can confirm. I can confirm no less.
Yeah, and as nerds rule the world now, it's a really good time to be us. But all right, let's get the stuff out of the way now. We have touched upon Gotham Knights in our last episode of For the Players, the PopC PlayStation Podcast. Dudi has got himself a full review over on his channel, but we're going to start from relative scratch and go through this. So, Gotham Knights, made by WB Montreal, the team originally behind Arkham Origins, the long, mostly forgotten game in the Rocksteady Arkhamverse. So this game is not part of the Arkhamverse. However, it is based in a similar with the same characters, the Bat family. But Batman's dead. He's dead. Just simple as that, straight off the bat. And this game is all about Red Hood, Robin, Batgirl, and Nightwing taking over the mantle and keeping their eye on Gotham while also processing and dealing with the loss of Bruce. And then you go around, do a bunch of RPG stuff and drive around on a bat cycle and have weapons upgrades that really don't feel like they do much. But let's get into it. All right, Max, I know you've got some hot takes about this game, so we're going to start with you. We'll give initial impressions, and then we'll break down into its parts.
They're not hot takes. I haven't enjoyed this title, and I really wanted to. It was a real shame. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time. I think the biggest concern was when a couple of weeks back, just before release, they're like, hey, due to how we wanted the multiplayer to run, we've capped the frames on consoles to 30 frames per second. I'm like, okay, cool. I guess I understand why. But what about for the people who want to play the game solo? The game is completely playable solo. Why is there no option to have a boosted mode for solo play? Surely you can determine whether or not I'm playing multiplayer or not. Give me some extra frames. And because of this locked at 30 frames on a PS5 when the game was originally supposed to come to PlayStation 4 consoles as well, is kind of atrocious. It's a real shame. Now I'm playing primarily as Red Hood, who seems to be one of the bulkier, heavier characters, and because of this lower frame rate, everything I do feels so clunky. It feels like I'm underwater almost, or in some kind of viscous liquid where I just struggle to move. Everything feels so slow paced. The map is so open and vertical, but there is no fun way to traverse it. I find the traversal in this game tedious. Thankfully, there is a fast travel back to your hub point, because it would be a nightmare without it. And yeah, I'm not feeling it. Now, whether or not that's because I've picked the only character who feels that way, I personally am unsure of that, because I haven't played any of the other characters yet, because none of them really interest me. I'm not a huge fan of the IP compared to the other two guys who are gonna talk, so I don't have that love for these characters as individuals. So I kind of just went with, oh yeah, he kind of looks cool. Let's pick that dude. But yeah, the combat feels very one-dimensional for me. I feel like I'm just doing the same combo over and over and over again as Red Hood, especially with the fact that it's essentially one-button combat. It's tap square for a light attack, hold square for a heavy. Every once in a while, you throw in a ranged attack with triangle, but for the most part, I'm strapping people with grenades and throwing them into mobs of enemies and then blowing everyone up. And that's all I do, because it seems like the only effective way to clear out enemies in any given reasonable amount of time. Because when you're doing these littered through the premeditated crimes that are one of the side quest things that you have to do some of the story quests, some of them are time based, and if you can't clear shit out fast enough, you just fail. And I found it to be very frustrating and just time consuming. It seemed to have gate kept you out of main scenario quests to progress the story further by just doing useless tedium. Now I understand that these guys are like, Batman's supposed to be the great detective, and like it makes sense that you're doing this detective work, but it just feels bland and uncompelling when you're doing it. It's essentially go to this spot, punch a bunch of dudes until they drop some clues, or interrogate a bunch of guys to drop some clues. Then the big boss will be pissed off enough that he'll finally talk to you and reveal his big plan. It just seems lackluster. I don't know. That's just me.
I asked for your initial impressions, and you gave me a diatribe.
Yeah,
pretty sweet.
Yeah. I'm just gonna throw it in there. Like, it's just, I don't know. I don't know if it's just me, but it just, it feels like needless tedium.
Well, it might just be. Dudi, what are your thoughts?
Look, I've already covered this, but in regards to, I feel like if you are a Batman fan, you're gonna like this. Like if you're a dude who likes, the 89 movies or the fantastic fucking animated series and all that sort of stuff like that, you'll like this. But if you're not a Batman fan, I wouldn't recommend this game, just because, look, it's a bit repetitive in that regards of combat and stuff like that. There are issues where, you have, like Max said, you have to go out and basically do small chores to then get the big wig to come out and talk to you, sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, if you're a Batman fan, I reckon you'll dig it. Playing co-op with my brother, who is also a massive Batman fan, like we were just creaming, like we dug it. But yeah, it's a diverse game in some instances. Yeah.
Yeah, so I seem to be somewhere in the middle. It seems, as in, as a Batman fan, there are some.
You sit on that fence.
Oh, that fence is. I'm perched on that fence like Robin. You know what I'm saying? For me, I there are things about this game that I enjoy and I love, whether it be the costume design. I think that's probably one of the biggest standouts for me. I do enjoy that each character plays or at least seems to play very differently, even though there's not a lot of differentials between them. However, similar to what Max said, Gotham itself is large but feels like nothing. I don't really recall any corners, any streets, no landmarks, or at least because when you're traversing it, it's tedious. But as you spend more time in it, like it's a push and pull, because I wanted to love it, but it's given me so many reasons to not. But there are some parts that are pulling me in, and there are some parts that are pushing me away. But one of the big things that is this, I can't help but break this sense of MMO with it. Like, everything seems so surface level. The main quest is enticing, but like kind of shallow, at least initially. And then you do a bunch of side crap, like go punch 10 things, come back, hey, there's more story. And it feels like this game was meant to be something else that may have pivoted or altered, but I wish it could have been more.
Yeah, there were a lot of rumors, especially following Arkham Knight, that, you know, Arkham Knight, while that was divisive as well with the events of that story, and I don't want to spoil that for anyone who hasn't played it, but you could tell that they wanted to do something further because it sold like hotcakes. And there were so many rumors going around that Warner Brothers Montreal were working on a Superman game where there was like leaked screenshots of it, and that there was a Batman and Robin co-op game where it was, you know, you are Batman and Robin doing co-op stuff. So it does feel like there are some things where they either half-baked it because it was originally for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One before then making it next-gen exclusive, and they had to pull things like basically what they sort of did with Cyberpunk. But I found myself, you know, at some points just grinning ear to ear being like, fuck, this is cool.
Well, let's get into the main part. Like the big hunk of it is the story. Now, admittedly, Max and I haven't finished the main campaign yet because as we were playing Gotham Knights, PlayStation were like, "Hey, here's God of War Ragnarok." We're like, "No."
I mean, that's where priorities lie sometimes, man. That's how it works.
Yeah.
I had the exact same thing. Dragon Ball Breakers came out, and I was just like, "Hey, do you want to play Dragon Ball Breakers?" I'm like, "Well, I'm a Dragon Ball nut, so sure." And then here's Gotham Knights. I'm like, "Ah."
Yeah, it's one of those things. You just kind of get pulled in different directions. So sadly, we've not been able to spend as much time with it as we wanted. We spent a good hunk. We've played it in co-op. We've played it singly. We've put a good enough time to at least hit enough of all the beats. But I guess this is where we'll jump in with you, Dudi, and we'll pull apart some of your extensive Bat knowledge. So with the story here, the idea of Batman being dead isn't new. It's been done before. Was it Batman R.I.P. and Batman Black Glove, I think, from memory, were the two main stories around him dying?
Yeah. So we had this sort of the story arc of, well, Batman's gonna die, and then we had the event of Final Crisis, where quickly he goes up against Darkseid, and Darkseid hits him with his Omega beams, and bang, vaporized. And then it's the whole thing of, shit, what do we do? He's gone. And you get a really, you know, great side spin-off story called Battle of the Cowl, where basically everyone out of the woodwork comes out going like, I should be the next Batman, and it's who should be the next Batman. Then we've got, you know, Damian Wayne Robin popping up as well, who's coming into the fold with that. Yeah, so there's a bit of that echoed in here as well. It's not the main source of inspiration, but it's definitely got that vibe into it.
Yeah, because there's really no plan of any of these to become the new Batman, at least from where we are in the story. Had you picked that up in the game at all, that they're all fighting to be the next Batman, or just sort of dealing with the loss of Bruce?
The one big thing I found that I think this game nails really, really hard is how each character's dealing with the loss of Bruce, because you look at every character and they're all dealing with it completely separately, where Nightwing is, you know, the first Robin. We see in the game that he doesn't want to go to Batman's grave. He can't admit that he's gone. We see Jason Todd basically struggling as well because he
too's been dead.
He too. I too have died. And it's basically, all right, well, that sucks. Tim Drake is having a rough time. He's very, very emotional. And Barbara Gordon's lost both Batman and her dad, Commissioner Gordon. And it's just like the father figure for all of these characters. And, well, for, you know, both in regards to Barbara, like, they're gone. And they're having to deal with that. And I thought this is a really, really cool plot point where one of the side little cutscenes is like, Dick Grayson is trying to sort of relieve tension with the crew and talking about, oh, you remember that time where we were cooking and I spilt this and we all had a laugh, and Jason's like, no. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right, you were dead. And it's just like it's some really, really cool cutscenes, some great voice acting and stuff like that, and that I think really keeps it emotionally invested in some instances. Where
yeah. While you're talking about cutscenes, I must admit the cutscenes in this game do look immaculate.
Yeah.
They look
Yeah.
really, really good, and I think they do show through that emotion that everyone is feeling quite well.
Yeah, and it's kind of dope in a way to see characters grieving, but then Alfred coming in just being like, he'd be so fucking proud of you all. And then when you do sort of, and that's somewhat of a negative, is the training and the way that the game teaches you some of its mechanics is done through sort of this mental preparation that's sort of done inside your head. And every time you sort of leave the training room or, get out of the sparring, there's just one-off comments by Bruce Wayne in his head being like, I'm so proud of you, Jason. Or, you've come so far, Barbara, and all that sort of stuff like that. I'm like, that's just fucking cool, man.
Yeah, that's like real dad-child energy, which always gets me up in here. I'm like,
Yeah. It's very much like Piccolo and Gohan from Dragon Ball. Like, he's tough, but when Piccolo dies from Nappa, it's fucking hard.
Yeah. But it's like, so one of the other big inspirations here is the likes of the Court of Owls.
Yeah.
How have they? Well, once again, we don't want to spoil anything for anyone, so we're going to. How much of the comic have they channeled into this?
Port of Owls, they've used a lot, and the great thing about doing so is nobody so far has done it. We've gotten, I think it's Batman vs Robin in the animated movie, which used Court of Owls
they did,
as its sort of story premise, but we haven't had it in live action in regards to movies. We had it with the Gotham TV show, and sort of some people liked it, some people didn't.
Oh, I have a lot of things to say about that Gotham TV show.
There are some good things. There are some very bad things with that show. But like the Court of Owls is so cool and so important because this was a new comic book villain that was made for Batman. That as soon as they hit the scene, it had that aura and feel of they've always been there. Like it's not just here's Punchline, Joker's new sidekick, because Harley Quinn's now her own person. So we've made another one where that felt kind of cheap for that character, where Court of Owls was just like, holy shit, this is a big deal.
And not only did it reshapes a bunch of the things you already know, because if they've already been here, what have they had their strings on? Like as they lay their foundations within the founding four families of Gotham, like they've got like little strings everywhere. It's huge.
Yeah.
I remember reading the book and it was so good.
It's a fantastic book. For those of you who haven't read it, highly, highly recommend reading it. But it links into not only Batman, but it links into Nightwing as well, and the character of Nightwing with basically the Court of Owls wanted to induct Dick Grayson into the fold to become a Talon, and he was saved from that from Batman as well, like inadvertently. Like there's all these really fucking cool storylines that they've done, and they are still somewhat of a big player in the books in regards to they're not just oh, well, what are we going to do this issue? Oh, we'll just throw in a Talon or, the Court of Owls, like we'll throw in Calendar Man or something. Where it's like they play a part in, the Dark Knight's Metal story, which gives us the Batman Who Laughs and all that sort of stuff like that as well. So since they've been introduced, they've stuck around.
Yeah, they most certainly are a great inclusion. But to sort of add to what you were discussing before about the cutscenes, and one of the things that is pulling me in to this game and what was enticing me so heavily was the likes of the Court of Owls, was this like character story, and that's hence I said we're playing God of War Ragnarok right now, which is an incredibly single player story driven game, and that's what I wanted, because even the Arkham games, as much as their gameplay was brilliant, was that. So when this game does deliver its cutscenes, or its story driven moments, I'm like, yes, cool, like that's what I'm enjoying, right? Like not to spoil like late game, villains or anything. Like I'll go do the early couple ones. So like seeing Harley and how they handle Harley is great. She's not over sexualized. She's not over camp. Like she's
not Tara Strong as well.
She's not Tara Strong, but which is always jarring when it's not the voices that you know. Like Penguin comes in and he looks great, but he's not got a bad
he hasn't got a monocle or anything.
Yeah, he has a monocle, but he doesn't have like that bad. What's that accent? The Cockney accent. I mean, he's just talking American. But it looks good and it feels good. Like the world, because like what the Arkham games like are huge to me. Like in terms of the action figures, the only action figures that I own extensively are Arkham game figures, because I loved them. They clicked me instantly, and I have like near on every single one of them. So, like, from a stylistic standpoint, the Arkham games are brilliant. And in these cutscenes, we have these moments like they do kind of have the story, and as you mentioned, the voice acting's really good in the cutscenes, but I find any external dialogue hurts.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like you can obviously tell that this isn't done by Rocksteady, because when you play Arkham Knight, you play Arkham City, you play Asylum, all that sort of stuff like that, is you really, really enjoy those random like sides of small dialogue that a goon has before you appear out of the night and beat the crap out of them. And while they are here in Gotham Knights, they're not as frequent, as funny, and as Easter egg clued in detailedy as the Arkham games. But there are some things I will say that I think Gotham Knights does better than the Arkham games. Not many, but still some things that I reckon they do really, really well. But yeah, like you can't beat those Arkham games. Like as soon as this game was announced, I went back and reviewed every single Arkham game, and then the DLC for Arkham City. Still haven't done re-reviewed the ones for Night yet, but like I went back and did a 45-minute video on Arkham Knight on why it's the best like Arkham game out of the three of them, and like why it just slaps.
So Max, having no context of like comics in terms, well, I know what comics are, but I mean in terms of the comic stories or the influences that would come across here, and only having previous game experience, how do you think they delivered the story that you've experienced so far?
Well, like I said, they've done a really good job, like telling their story through the cutscenes. That's the most compelling way to do it. I've found. So for context, where I'm up to, I've done the first few Court of Owls stuff, and I've always been interested in the Court of Owls as a group, similar to that of like the Illuminati in Marvel, essentially. I guess would be the comparison there. And it's cool that it's just they're not, to a degree, they're just people, and I think just people make the best villains and more compelling, because it's like, how messed up do you have to be to just be like a normal dude? Like you haven't fallen into a vat of toxic waste. You haven't frozen yourself to the point where you're now just a super villain. Like you're just
we don't talk bad about Mr. Freeze. He's the best fucking one.
You're just a guy. Like what? And having that be their driving point is fascinating. So I'm enjoying the big beats when I get to see them.
Yeah.
It's the little bits in between that I'm finding lackluster, and it's making me not want to progress because I have to do this to get to this. It's like having a really shitty carrot on a stick.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Well, actually, the carrot's really good, but the stick's so long to get to the carrot, I guess, is the analogy I want.
And you're like, this carrot better be fucking good.
Yeah, which is a shame, because I'm enjoying those big beat moments. Like one of my favorite parts so far has been that very early set piece in the prison where you're chasing Harley's balloon, and
you popped so hard for living La Vida Loca.
That big fucking mob fight in the middle of the yard. I'm like, this is awesome. And then it kind of just derailed itself after that. I'm like, it's kind of anticlimactic at the end. But
because I would even argue that
enjoying that moment.
That the prologue video of the Batman fighting Ra's al Ghul.
That's
like a 12-minute video.
That was exceptional. Sweet. But I really feel that set me up on a different game. I was like, oh fuck give me all this, and then I play it. I'm like, oh.
You're kind of not wrong, to be honest, man. Like it was a dope fucking opening cutscene. Like I don't want to like go into what happens in it, but it just shows how fucking badass Batman is. Like in some regards, but just like it was fucking cool. I really fucking dug it. And then it's just like, bang, you're playing as pick your hero, off you go, and it's like, I feel like it would have been real cool if you could start sort of like if you played Star Wars: The Force Unleashed, where like the first level of that game you're playing as Vader, you have unlimited health, unlimited force, you just fuck Wookiees up. Yeah. Where it's like, do the start of the game where you play as Batman and you feel powerful and shit like that, and then you die, and then you play as it's like, cool. Well, if you want to go down that road, you have to play as Robin, sort of thing.
Yeah, so like for what I would have really enjoyed is because the challenge that they had with setting up this opening prologue, right? It establishes it established the League of Shadows or the League of Assassins. Well, I think they use shadows in this one. where therefore they can establish how Jason Todd's alive, that they have a reason for Talia al Ghul to be there. They kind of add enough to the world storytelling to like, okay, we need to explain this, we'll have Raish involved, and they use the correct pronunciation. I know you and I
Thank God, I know, yeah.
That's
Fucking, that pisses me off so hard.
So the downside is in that cave, we see a dope Batmobile, we see the Batwing, we see all this cool gear and shit. Like, oh man, I can't.
The giant coin.
We see all like a mix of old and new Batman inspirations, and that's awesome. But then when you hit the game and they go, oh, you're in the Belfry, it's got old tech, everyone has the same bike. It's like, oh, but I just saw that there was really cool tech in the Batcave. It's like you've drip fed me something and I'm now not seeing any of that. Like, I understand from a storytelling perspective, it allows you to upgrade it, but there you go. We're going to show you the keys to the kingdom, and then we're going to take the keys away from you.
We're going to blow up the kingdom.
Yeah, and the kingdom's gone now. You're hanging out. Yeah, it's just because once again, like, just the downside of it's a Batman game without Batman, but it's not really a Batman game. So it hits a different beats. But in terms of, we'll go into what Max was talking about before about how the game plays, because that is the key part. It's about how the game plays in between these awesome cutscenes. And I agree with what Max's points were. The game is tedious. It has that MMO level of energy where it's, as I said, you go somewhere, you have to interrogate someone to give information, then you go over there and punch them, and then how many of them can you do in a night to collect arbitrary resources, to collect arbitrary clues, to then go back and see another cutscene. Like, the level of rapidity, that's not even a word, the level of repetition in order to achieve that is unsatisfying. And especially with the, as Max alluded to before, with the traversal. Now, there are ways that you can increase your traversal, because in order to do all these crimes, you have to not do the crimes. Sorry, to solve the crimes. Fuck.
That may be a way better game.
Yeah, totally better game. But in order to solve all these crimes, or to assist them to take them out, you have to traverse that city, and it's not fun to do so. Now, in the same way, if you go over look at the Arkham games, where even as Batman, you earn extra skills that allow you to glide more, allow you to get an extra boost to get that kick, and there's a point where you can literally fly across Arkham City without stopping. Like, they still had growth to get to it, but here it's like you can barely jump from roof to roof and there is no momentum, or you can drive a bike that feels not like it looks fast but it isn't, and it feels floaty. Like, all right, well, it's de-incentivizing you to explore. And it's like, but if you want to explore better, can you do a bunch of grinding to get this thing? And like, hence that MMO or games as a service sort of feel, where I'm like, I understand earning stuff to get it. Don't just give it to you, but like, make it part of story beat. That's my favorite part of the Arkham games. You play. Here's a cool new gadget. Oh, suddenly the world opens up more because I now have this thing. Where here it's like, hey, here's everything. He's got to bust your ass to get to, and it's going to suck.
Yeah, it was one of these, like, and I wouldn't say it's overly spoiler. We know Batman's dead, but he's in the Batcave. He pushes a button, and you just see a map, and it shows Red Hood, Nightwing, Robin, and Batgirl on the map. And he's just like, they won't make it in time. And I'm like, of course they won't. Batgirl doesn't know how to glide. Like, getting around on the city via zipline's slow as fuck.
If they have to travel like that to get here, Batman was fucked before he even pressed that button.
Yeah, it was just, that was probably one of my biggest gripes, is that everyone has to unlock their own traversal, where it's like, I totally agree with everyone having their own mode of traversal, because every character needs to feel different. But like, you're running around as Batgirl, all of your outfits have a cape, you can't glide. So for every character at the start of the game, until you unlock their own separate traversal, is ziplining and jumping from point to point, which... It's not fun ziplining. Imagine playing, PlayStation Marvel Spider-Man game and just hitting the zipline button and then running and jumping, rather than the swinging mechanic. Like, the swing is the equivalent of the glide for Batman. Like, they go hand in hand. Where this is literally ziplining, and the ziplining animation itself is weird as well, and then running and jumping, to which the traversal button in Spider-Man and in Batman is one button. You hold down the X button or you hold down the right trigger, and he starts running and climbing and swinging or gliding or whatever. Where I was playing this on PC with an Xbox controller, and you have to click the left thumbstick to sprint and then hold A to jump automatically over points. And I'm like, no, just make it one button, like Assassin's Creed style. Hold down the right trigger, you're in traversal mode, run. You know what I mean? And some of the traversals that characters have are kind of stupid. Batgirl being able to glide, fine, no problem with that. That makes sense. But the Nightwing's traversal is the flying trapeze, which is it's a Fortnite glider. That you can actually fly with. You can actually pull up and fly up with it. It doesn't have like a sort of a gliding system. So it's like, what's the point of running around on the floor or, using the bike when I can just call in this glider and actually fly with the glider, or use the fast travel system that is basically a giant version of the glider that you can't use. They've made some strange decisions there. I get it, but it's also like you needed to spend an extra 20 minutes just saying what you wrote down out loud. Like, proofread what your ideas are a little bit.
Because even then, like, the one that I've unlocked with Robin it's essentially like, beam, beam. It's like a little beam thing there, but because you have to do it, then pick where you want to land, it actually breaks the momentum further. So there is really no benefit from having done it. Where at least with Nightwing, the jump and then the thing, like, the little Fortnite
it feels fluid,
glider. Yeah, like, cool. Well, then I can, then detach and then keep going and do whatever. Batgirl would be the same with the glide. Even... like, if Red Hood didn't have these weird, like, Hulk jumps, like, if it was more weird. Like a hover boot that just kind of like me and like
he's very much Mordo from Doctor Strange. Like, he has the jumping boots.
Yeah,
it's really weird for a character who's like this. Red Hood is the physical embodiment of like Batman in regards to his broodiness and don't fucking get caught down the dark alley with him sort of thing. And then just seeing him like body jump around is really weird. Where, like, as you said though, like, using Robin has he uses the Justice League Watchtower to do short range teleports. Where I'm like, cool, that sounds
great concept.
Fine,
great concept.
Awesome idea. And it's like cool, but as you said, it breaks the momentum because you jump and you pull the right trigger or R2 and you'll activate the teleporter, and then it's just this dot that you move around quite slowly, and you have 8 seconds to move it, and then you have to release the button to teleport back in. I'm like, why not just make him like Nightcrawler, that if you can see like basically the lock-on points for the zip line, that you just teleport to that immediately rather than just doing the disappear reappear. It's kind of weird. Yeah.
And like it's the irony in that there is a problem with momentum in this game, where one of the key features is momentum.
Yep.
Like,
I find it weird that Batman wouldn't share how to glide with Batgirl before he died. You know what I mean? It's like, welcome to the Bat Family 101. You're going to be doing a lot of
he could have added it as a PS in her email.
Yeah.
I'm dead. PS, this is how you glide.
That, and just like, have you guys seen like when you unlock the traversals in the game, you get this 10-15 second like cinematic of sort of Batman helping them beyond the grave of how to do whatever. So for Nightwing, he's looking at his an iPad, and the wrist gauntlet goes off, and it's like, hey, here's this. Where Batgirl walks past and's like, Batman's cape. Oh wow, I could glide with that. I'm like, hang on, you're just figuring that out now, dude? Like
she looked in the mirror, saw the silhouette. It was like, I kind of look like Batman.
I have a cape.
Can glide.
It was. That's probably the biggest gripe. I do totally get Max's point of, you have to do grindy things, especially to unlock traversal, or, you go and talk to Penguin, try to intimidate him. Penguin's like, you're not Batman, piss off. And then you have to go basically interrupt his illegal fucking dealings for you to then go back and talk to him.
And like that mission alone, just saying, hey, let's travel across the map. You go there, Penguin's like, fuck you. And then the mission over. That's it. It's like, well, that is MMO bullshit. That's travel unnecessarily across friggin' whatever the World of Warcraft is. Go over there and talk to some dude.
And then you stop his fucking transport.
Yeah.
And then he's like, come have a whiskey with me. I'll tell you everything you need to know. I'm saying, just fucking.
Well, just because I inconvenienced you.
Because in that cutscene, I'm Jason Todd. I'm twice the size of this dude.
Yeah, I did Jason Todd for that as well. Just
slap him and just.
I was Robin, so it made sense. He's like, fuck you, you're not Batman.
I feel like it would totally make sense if you're Robin rocking up to Penguin and Penguin's like, piss off. And then you as Robin do that. But it was like, if you go in as Nightwing and you as you said, you're Nightwing. Not Nightwing, sorry. Red Hood. You go in as Red Hood, you're intimidating, you're fucking huge. And then it's just like, cool, you have to take out 30 dudes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, holy shit, this dude's not
Yeah.
tired.
And that's
Penguin's
part,
like 2 feet tall compared to you, and you're just like, okay.
and that's
no
part of the
worries. And you
challenge of
just stalk out.
having of wanting to tell this shared narrative that you can interchange people at any point. Like if the game was a single player game, which it isn't, but it was like, hey, you're going to play as Nightwing for a little while, and we hit story beats that really deliver Nightwing and really show off his motivations, and then you're going to pivot to Batgirl and Robin, and then back and whatever to sort of tell those different stories, so that would make sense. Like as you mentioned, as a result, a lot of the story beats feel flat because they had to shave them to fit everyone.
Yeah.
Which is a downside. And I believe the gameplay mechanics are the same because of it. Because it's, as Max mentioned, it's a single button game. It's square, 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 hold square, 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 hold square, square, maybe triangle. Like,
Yeah.
even though the Arkham games, I know we keep referring to them, I know it's not an Arkham game, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to keep referring to them.
You can't not compare
not.
it to it because it's so heavily inspired by it.
Yeah, and then like their system was light, heavy, and evade, right? And that's not far off what this is.
I didn't even have heavy. It was light.
But
it
there
was
is no-
dodge and
yeah.
it was counter. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no heavy. There's no heavy. But it would use like R1, R2, and attack, and you'd throw a batarang real quick to interrupt someone,
Yes.
or you'd hit a certain button, another one, you'd zip line them towards you, or something like that. Where like there's no gadget interweave combat into this.
Yeah.
Where like you can't quickly put the spray gel on the ground and blow it up while there's 3 guys standing next to it. It's sort of like if you're describing Batman combat, the Arkham games, say what you will about the films if you're not a fan, but like that warehouse scene in Batman Superman was fucking dope. And Batman fights off against everyone.
That gets my nips hard. No, that scene is so good.
It's a dope scene. But then it's like the combat in this game is very much say like Batman Forever. Or or Batman and Robin when they take on the Mr. Freeze's goons. Like it's not bad, but when you compare it to that, it is not the same.
Yeah, it kind of feels like nothing, and it's really hard because like Max and I played co-op with the idea of like maybe co-op will make our experience better. It didn't really because we just kicked a bunch of guys' asses faster. So like the things that felt arbitrary felt more arbitrary because we could go in and just punch and leave, and without something as simple as a lock on.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So like as Robin, you go, I have this bow staff spin that's like really handy to take out heavies, but you can't lock onto a heavy. You just kind of do it and hope the fact that they're in your way. Now, Max, with Red Hood, did you find that not having a lock on was a disadvantage?
No, because I only, as I said before in my earlier rant, I've spec'd my character tree into I can just grab people straight away. So I literally grab the closest person to me, I strap them with a grenade, I throw them, and where the lack of locking kicks in is I sometimes just don't shoot the guy with the grenade strapped to him. It'll just shoot everyone else around him. Like, but if you shoot this one guy, they all fall down.
Yeah, you gotta manually aim to do that. Yeah.
And that's frustrating. You can't just use the quick fire to just hit the guy with a grenade.
It is also one of those things like because there's no lock-on button and the camera, if you're playing as Robin and Nightwing especially, the camera moves a lot because Nightwing is acrobatic and one of his abilities is literally a fucking jump attack where it's like it physically moves the camera around. So like, all right, where the fuck did the big guy go? And then he's already on top of him. Like, So that is a problem. I will say as well that the Arkham games did really, really good combat because not only is it fantastic, and if you're button bashing that game on the screen, it looks awesome. But the game would also be like, here's a couple of normal goons, right? Some of them have got knives or baseball bats or whatever, but they're all close. And then they'd go, here's a guy with a gun. Take the guy with the gun out first, or make him drop the gun. Then just take them all out. And then be like, here's a dude with a shield. Here's that. They'd slowly introduce different enemy variants, and then slowly start to throw different variants together on top of each other by teaching you how to take out that variant one at a time, and then throwing them all in together. Where this game doesn't really tell you how to do that. It's just like, here's attack, here's dodge, here's ranged attack. If you want to know more, go do the training in the Belfry. Where it's like, no, I shouldn't need to do the training. You should slowly introduce these enemy variants and teach me how to do these attacks without me having to actually go and manually do the training.
Yeah, and it should like encourage you to not just smash square. Like, 'cause as you mentioned, even with the Arkham games, you could just do it, but you're not going to get the combos. You're not going to build up because you're going to get momentum regardless in Gotham Knights, right? But in Arkham, like, in order to get those sweet killer combos, like, you have to build up. You got to dodge. You can't take hits.
7 hits.
Yeah, you've got to like duck and weave and do all the dodge, duck, weave, duck, dive, and dodge. So that's fine, but
plus there was the added benefit of if you timed your attacks properly, they essentially critted.
Yeah.
So
which
you were rewarded for not mashing.
Yeah.
You do get that here in Gotham Knights, but you have to do the training because it's like every character plays differently. So for Red Hood, if you hit the range attack buttons in certain intervals as his attacks work, he'll do crit damage. And he'll just you basically don't even need to punch anyone because if you get the rhythm right, he just fires his pistols. Is the only thing that stops him is he needs to reload. So when he reloads, you're wide open. But for Nightwing is once he gets into the flow of combat, if you're hitting the attack button in that flow, sort of I wouldn't say like Guitar Hero, but you get into that rhythm of it, you'll deal more damage and it will look visually better on screen as well. Like it'll actually feel kind of dope. But it's like the game doesn't naturally show you how to do that. You need to figure that out. And if you pick up the game and play it and not being a massive Batman fan, you'll be like, this fucking sucks. But you play the Arkham games and it's just like, well, yeah, I can button bash, but Batman still looks cool. Like, Batman's bending people's arms backwards and he's doing really cool spin kicks and stuff where Nightwing's just bouncing around. It's really weird.
And the other challenge they have is as you confront all these enemies and like you find the heavies and you are just pummeling, and like because they have the health bars above them, like you are seeing how very little damage that you are doing. So you go, oh sweet, well in that case I'll jump into this gear section, which because any RPG has to have a gear section at the moment. Now there are some things this like stylistically. This gear section smashes. It's awesome.
If you mind you though, if you compare the gear section of this game to the gear section of Marvel's Avengers, it's like this is the cake coming out of the oven at the right time. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. This smashes. Yeah. Like this is awesome because they all look good. They don't look fucking bullshit by like Avengers like. Like all the outfits look cool. They feel cool. But like, are they doing anything from a data, like from a stats? Probably. It doesn't feel like it. Like it just feels like every time you bump it up, it's the same. And I don't feel that I'm like, oh, I've got this one weapon that's just, it's allowing me to play better. But at least I look cool. Because like, an example you and I on Twitter talked about, the Red Robin suit. Like I saw that and I popped. I was like, yeah, that looks sick. And then
dude, I found Red Robin from Arkham City as well. Like that's how I was introduced to the character. I went and fucking read his books. They were awesome. And then it's like, he's in the game. I can have my Robin as my favorite Robin. It's dope.
And like, yeah, you've got the cool, like, the Shinobi one. So because there's a really cool couple, I think Batman Ninja was the run, or at least it's the movie, so for those that have that sort of samurai influence, you can get that. And like, there's one that is just like modernized old style, like standard comic costumes, which is the one that pops me the hardest. I'm like, but there's enough there. You can get real super futuristic with like the Beyond style ones. So like if you want it to, as I said, one of the things this game gets right is the aesthetic of that Bat family in those costumes. And there's just enough customization for you to get what you want.
I mean, the main thing is there's also a transmog, so you can have your best gear equipped but still look rad.
Yeah, or look the way you want to, which is a huge fan because they talk the Arkham like feel like Batman. Like, well, no, but at least I can look like Batman. You know what I mean? Like this game doesn't have the same feel, but I can be happy with how my Batgirl looks. Because I know in your video, Dudi, you talked about how your Red Hood has the leather jacket.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things as well that I'm fairly sure one of the, at least for me, one of the earliest games I can think of that did it was DC Universe Online, where it was like World of Warcraft, DC Universe. Great game.
God, I love DC. I played so much DC Universe Online. My plasma TV had the hotbar burnt into it.
Fuck yeah, man.
I could still see my emulsion, stats. Oh.
But it was one of those games where like you'd get an awesome outfit, you'd get a helmet that buffed your stats, and you go cool, and you put it on and be like, well, this Greek helmet doesn't go with the Green Lantern stylings I'm going with, so you just go into the style tab, you change it to something else, save, done, and it has that sort of same styling to it as well.
Hence that MMO energy, I guess, is probably the big thing.
Yeah.
So I guess for yourself, dude, like as that comic book fan, and it sounds like you're in the same boat as me. Like the stylistic choices of this gear slaps.
Yeah, I mean, I think the world's fucking cool. I think the map is massive, so that can work both for you and against you in regards to Gotham. Arkham Knight was fantastic fucking game, but like as a Gotham City, and this is all of Gotham City, I'm like, it's a bit small.
Yeah.
It's 3 islands. It is, it's a previous gen game that still looks fantastic. But like this game, the first thing I did was I zoomed in and I started looking at some of the landmarks. I'm like, there's Monarch Theater, there's a reference to Star City, there's Arkham Asylum, there's Blackgate, and I went to go physically go. First thing I did was summon the bike, go look for Crime Alley, because there's got to be something cool there. And I was just finding all these little cool random Easter eggs for, me as a comic book nut was just like, awesome, sweet. Like, this is great. The combat is, you need to immerse yourself in this game in regards to fully enjoy it. One of the games I'll say that is a lot of people think is completely awful, but if you as nerdy as it is, if you immerse yourself and role play into it, Aliens Colonial Marines, awful game. But if you put it on super hard mode and you like properly chat to your mates, you pull out the motion tracker and you call out what you're doing, like, you would be if you were in the game or the film or whatever, it helps you get more enjoyment out of it. I feel like you sort of need to do a bit of this with that as well. I found doing co-op with my brother. He was running Red Hood. I was Robin. And we'd go like, all right, cool. People have got bombs strapped to them. We need to be quiet. We need to be careful. Don't make any noise. He accidentally hits the range attack button. He fires his pistols. Everyone knows we're there. And it definitely it changed things up and we had a bit of fun with it. But having said that, we are both massive Batman nerds.
Yeah. So, like, how about for you, Max? Like, because obviously, once again, not a lot of outside of the game influence. Were you happy with, like, because you're also a big gear nut as well. You love your JRPGs, you love your RPGs, and that's a massive part of that is grinding for gear. It's why you love Destiny.
Yeah, so with how early I'm in the game, see, the thing I like about grinding for gear is when I'm grinding for something specific, and I know where I can get it, and it's just like, there's a chance it's going to drop here, and I'll just do that over and over and over again until I get it. I'm not getting that feeling here. I don't know whether or not that exists in the later game where it's like, this piece of epic or legendary gear will drop at this point, or I need this certain crafting material to craft that certain piece of gear. Like, I'm still using the very first starting gear that I get purely because it has an XP bonus. So I've just transmogged over it and went, I just want more XP because more XP means more power. And I kind of
took beyond gear.
Yeah, and I kind of just took it that way. But you mentioned about going around to the landmarks and all that stuff, and I don't have that sense of wonder to a degree because I'm not a big guy for this IP. Like in Marvel Spider-Man, that was awesome for me because I'm a big Marvel nut. So doing that, like going to all those things, seeing like Luke Cage's bar and all that stuff in that game was rad.
No name, yeah.
but in Marvel, like I'm like, oh yeah, I recognize Star Labs. That's cool. I like that. Sorry, in Gotham City, I'm like, I recognize Star Labs. That's cool. It's like, Asylum, awesome. But I don't have that love for the franchise, unfortunately, and I think I am missing out on some of the stuff that this game has to offer because of that. And it's like you said, you're like, if you're a fan of the IP, you're going to enjoy this game because it really does cater to those people. But if you don't have that knowledge, all you're kind of getting is a surface level brawler game with some, what I am interpreting to be some Batman sprinkles. And it's just, it's not enough for me.
Yeah, no,
that's like I said, I wanted to be pulled into this game, but it's just not grabbing me, unfortunately, because I'm a huge fan of those Arkham games. Like, I love those games. That was fantastic, and all I kind of wanted this to be was that, but co-op, and it's not. And that's on me setting unrealistic expectations clearly, but at the same time, like when Ryan and I were playing co-op the other night. Ryan was on one side of the map, I was on the other side, and we were getting frame drops which is really noticeable when the game's
You're
only
right.
running at 30 frames.
So we were wanting to test like essentially this theory that the idea is the reason they can't do 60 is because the whole map is rendered at any given time. So we just fucked off in different directions, and sure enough, the game ate shit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that was very interesting.
Yeah.
So the little fucking side story that I have with this game, and my mates had a proper laugh at me, was I was playing the game and I was chatting to them and I was showing them sort of my giving them a little stream showing what it looks like, how it plays, whatever. And they go, "Hey, what's your monitor running at?" And I was like, "I don't know." He goes, "What's your refresh rate on your monitor?" And I'm like, "I don't know." So I've pulled it up and I've taken a look and I'm like, "It's only 60 frames a second." And he goes, "And what rig are you running?" And I told him my specs and he goes, "You're a fucking idiot. Go buy yourself a new monitor." So I bought myself a brand new monitor at 160 frames a second, plugged it in, put Gotham Knights on, and it's just like, it is a bit of a kick in the dick for like consoles to PC in regards to, you guys are locked at 30, and I locked the game at 30, just got on the bike, drove around as Batgirl, and the cape, while it looks good, it does have that bit of a jitter to it, where you put it at 160 frames a second and bang, it's buttery smooth.
Yeah.
But I have seen another streamer basically say, frames only matter when it's a first-person shooter.
Disagree.
And it's like, I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that, because I think racing games also need to have high frames.
It's really
and
easy
this
because
game's fast.
he's wrong. He's absolutely wrong. Because when it comes to frame rate, it's something you feel every second that you play. So if there's any jitter, any shake, like it's frames per second, right? So if you are halving the fluidity of what you are playing per second, so 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, you start adding those seconds up, and if it's not smooth, it sucks. It's horrible. Like right now, we're playing God of War Ragnarok. I'm playing at like 120 frames per second because the game allows it to do so.
Yeah.
It is brilliant, right? It baffles me that this game can't do it. I understand its reasonings, but like when God of War can look the way it is, and this is all preview information, when it looks the way it is, and it's running at a better frame rate with no hitches, I haven't had a single hitch.
Yeah.
But we look over at Gotham Knights and it's struggling to hit 30 in a world that looks nowhere near as detailed, and we're in two different areas. Like it's
interesting.
It's baffling. But
I guess that's the drawback of having what I'm assuming to be peer-to-peer networking for multiplayer, because it's not server based. It's definitely it's definitely one console's chugging hard to render everything and send it through to the other guy's console.
And the fact that it's peer-to-peer, you can tell, because when you're hosting and someone joins your game, you aren't part of their cutscenes. It's their game, and you are just in it.
You're in it, yeah.
There's no it doesn't. It's clearly built as a single player game with multiplayer in it. Because if there was multiplayer, the cutscene should have had you standing in the background. Like if you're Robin, and like Max and I were playing, I was Robin, Max is Red Hood. Robin's trying to talk to Penguin.
You
Red Hood should be behind.
Are you seeing this? I'm like,
this.
no, I'm just walking around the. Around.
There are cutscenes that triggered in my gameplay that Max couldn't see.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Yeah, not a fan of that. Then
it's not a shared experience.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of, at least in regards to, and I can see in your chat as well, Crispy Biscuit completely disagree with the frames per second thing, and I totally get it now. Thank you for explaining, Ryan. But it's just one of those things where, like, the only thing I can think of is this had a similar-esque thing to Cyberpunk, where Cyberpunk dropped on Xbox One and PlayStation 4, and it was just cactus. Where that's on PC and
like,
next
if
gen, it was
this was
fun.
originally supposed to come out on PS4 and it's struggling here, how horribly did it run to begin with?
Yeah.
And
I'm wondering
because this game has been clearly hamstrung by what they tried to get working on previous gen consoles. Because there's no way that a PlayStation 5 should not be able to pull higher than 30 frames.
Because in this week's episode of the show, Max and I were discussing, like, maybe it's a circumstance of they can't lock a 60, so they brought it down to a 30. Like, we can at least lock 30. Well, they can't, because we've seen it. Like, if they're like, oh, we can't lock 60 because it swings between like 40 and 60, and it feels like a lot, right? It's quite jarring, but at least we can keep it at 30, but you can't.
Yeah, right.
Like, I'm not a dev, so I don't know the back end. I don't know how hard it is to make all this happen. But I don't know. It just seems hard. We're at a point now where we're in this next generation of consoles. They're more powerful than ever before, but we somehow can't beat the level of performance of previous gen games.
Yeah.
What's going on there? That's a much greater discussion than Gotham Knights, by the way. Like, because WB Montreal really hadn't released a game since PS3. So what have they been doing?
I think it was.
Very similar to Sony Bend with Days Gone. Like, what were you doing this whole time? Because even though I love Days Gone, but
I just want to throw out what Crispy put in the chat. Can confirm it chugs like a fat kid running up a hill on Series X as well.
Good to know. Good to know.
I will say, I do love that it is crossplay. So
that part is dope. Yes.
Yeah, I've got a mate that she's mad Xbox. She's also a mad, Batman fan as well. And she's like, I want to play this game, but I also don't want to, I want to have a bit of a fun experience with it, fun with it. And it's just like, dude, you've got it on Xbox, I've got it on PC, let's jam. Like, as soon as you unlock the co-op, I can just drop straight in. Like,
were you disappointed in the fact that it's only 2-player co-op, knowing that there's 4 playable characters?
There is a 4-player mode coming to the game that they announced.
But it's not the campaign.
It's not the campaign. It's an arena section where it's essentially like a wave shooter but in an arena.
It goes against everything this game is saying that it should be. The narrative of what this game is.
My understanding is it's like a separate like arena type thing. It's not. They're not adding 2 extra players for the campaign. It's just a standalone.
I do know that. I think it's with co-op as well that you can both like the one thing that I just went the fuck was when they was like, oh, you can play the game co-op, is you can both play as the same hero. I'm like, no.
Why?
If I'm playing as Nightwing, I don't want someone jumping in my game as Nightwing. They're playing as someone else. Like that's how it should be. I think the biggest comparison, competition, whatever it is you want to call it as well, will be Suicide Squad that comes out next year by Rocksteady, and it's 4-player co-op. And it's pseudo the same thing in regards to each character plays different. They all have their mode of traversal, one of which I believe is a teleport, if I'm not mistaken. I know one super speed.
Very quickly, if Suicide Squad is great, WWE Montreal have essentially been considered like the LD Rocksteadies with Arkham Origins, because like Arkham Origins kind of wasn't very good. It also ran like trash.
Arkham Origins, man. I went back. I popped it up on Twitter the other day. It was 2 years ago that I went back and played Arkham Origins. Arkham Origins isn't bad. Like, in regard to, if you compare it to the Arkham games, like the Rocksteady Arkham games.
So you compare it to the series that it's a part of?
Yeah, compare it to the game it's a series it's a part of, yeah. But it's like going to God of War, right? God of War 1, 2, and 3 fucking slap. God of War on the PSP games, like those God of War games, like, they're good. They're in the same universe. They're not as good.
They're lesser experiences, but they're still good because they're PSP versions. They're not.
Yeah, but see,
again,
I think
Arkham City, Arkham Asylum, and Arkham Origins all came out in the same console. That is not comparable to Chains of Olympus because that's a different system. It can only do so much.
But it's not bad. They obviously just use the exact same assets. They use the same, even the same suit upgrades, which doesn't make sense. The only thing that sucked hardcore with Arkham Origins was that Mr. Freeze DLC. It was the absolute pits. Yeah. And Mr. Freeze is my favorite DC villain, so I was fucking angry. But honestly, I don't necessarily mind this game. It's a separate universe. It's them trying to do their own thing. You can tell that they've tried to do multiple different games post Arkham Knight, and for whatever reason they were canned or retooled or changed or this or that or whatever. But as a first entry in their own universe where they're making their own combat system, they're not copying anything hardcore from the Arkham games, I think it's fine. Like for a first entry. Yeah. But it's going to be so hard against God of War because that's going to be everyone's fucking doped for that, and yeah. So
there's some great final thoughts as we sort of transition into that, because I'm the same boat. Like I've sat here and I've said some harsh things about this game, but like this game, like it's a good 7 out of 10. Like, and if you're seeing anything less than 7, they're being mean, because the game looks good. like a 5 out of 5 is it's dead average, right? This game is above average. Like, it works, it runs, it runs relatively well. The story beats are there. It's not a shit game. Like, it's the same thing as like, oh, Death Stranding's a 3 out of 10. In no way, shape, or form is that game could ever be a 3 out of 10. 3 out of 10 means that game should be the janky shit in the world. It means the story should be incomprehensible, and like performances, like the room, level of bad. None of that. Neither's this game. A 7 out of 10 for this game is more than fine, because that's what it is. It doesn't, and I think, as you said it as well in your review, Dudi, and I agree. Not every game has to be a 9. 7 out of 10s are fine. Now, this game, it's fine. It just happens to be that I'm playing a game that is substantially better, and it's making it look worse, which is a challenge for me. Because I'm like, I really similar to Max, I really wanted to love this. But it's just this new games as a service thing that's threading through everything, where it's not about how you play the game, it's about how long you play the game. And every game, whether it be your likes of your Assassin's Creeds, or even some things like Horizon as an example, where they add all this supplementary nonsense just to have you stay the game longer, because retention time is key. And same with this. We're gonna feed you a bunch of things that just extend your time. That's how I feel.
It does have that little vibe to it, where I feel like this could be similar to Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Is one of the ones I tend to
Wildlands
use.
Fantastic. I loved it so much. Breakpoint.
Yeah, but like Breakpoint released poorly. But Breakpoint now is completely different to regards to...
Yeah, but you only get one chance of first impressions. And as an example, with WB Montreal not having done anything since Origins, this was their time to shine. And if they came out and they fumbled. Like, they didn't drop it, the cake and exploded. They didn't, drop the chili in the middle of the office. But they stumbled. And it's a bummer because it could have been really, really cool. And I think Skill Up said it and it landed. It feels like this game was probably going to be like the Avengers. Then they realized the Avengers didn't work, so they scaled it all back. You look at the multiple amount of currencies. You look at like all these little things. They're like, this is an Avengers light. That they pivoted.
Avengers, I will say, if you got Marvel's Avengers and Gotham Knights
destroys Avengers.
No, but if you got both Marvel Avengers and Gotham Knights and you merge them together, either to make a new Marvel game or a new DC game, you'd have a fucking sick game. Because say what you will about that awful Avengers game, but Thor fucking slapped in that game. They got the combat designer from God of War to do Thor.
Yeah.
And like
hammering people smashed, and then like being Captain America and just like hard Batman brawling, awesome.
Bingo. Yeah. Like you do the open world-esque of sort of Gotham Knights. You don't do multiple biomes and shit, and you do an Avengers game like that. Fine.
See, but go ahead.
No, sorry, go on.
I was like, because Avengers did the exact same problem that I feel Gotham Knights did. That opening prologue set up a whole different game.
Yeah. And I think the real interesting thing is Warner Brothers Montreal have used the Bat family, right? And they're, if I may say so, they are a lot more popular and release more good content, if that's a word, than the Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad have had crap books. They've also had one mediocre to crap movie, a really crap spin-off, but then also the really good James Gunn film, where it's like the Bat family is like you're setting yourself in deep and around Batman using Gotham. That itself is a fucking great standing off point, where it's like Suicide Squad taking on the Justice League who are affected by Brainiac. Could work, but it is a massive gamble where it feels like using the Bat family in Gotham is a safer bet, and it feels like Rocksteady might just be like, you know what, fuck it, we still did it, we still rocked it.
Yeah. What about you, Max? What's your final thoughts?
Sometimes you want to just be the bad guy.
Yeah, it's true.
That's true.
So I think your final thoughts probably exactly your opening monologue. So
yeah, look, like I said, I really wanted to enjoy this game. Like you said, the game's fine. I think you'll enjoy it more if you are a fan and have more knowledge of the lore of Batman. But as a surface level, for myself, it's just not gelling with me as much as I would have liked. But 7 out of 10, yeah.
Yeah, because as you
It's
know,
fun.
surface level's fine, but like if you dive into the emails, you dive into the world, like you will find
the
those
emails are dope,
those
yeah.
nitty gritty sort of like.
You can see Batman stripping at Penguin's Club. Like it's cool.
You know what I mean? Like all those, yeah, you can find those nitty, like those little Easter eggs and the world building that show that WB Montreal had a care. But the fact you have to dive and hunt for it, you shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
But yeah. Either way, yeah, there you go, everyone. That's our hour long, pretty much thoughts on Gotham Knights. Yeah, so big thank you once again to Play on ANZ for providing all three of us review codes for the game.
Yeah.
Hopefully we still can get review codes and we just put the hell on this game in a lot of ways. But
I mean, I dig it. It's as stupid as it is and as fucked up as my credibility will probably be. It will most likely be in my top 5 games of the year. Like
Look,
it's personally for me, it's hit, but I totally understand why it hasn't for others.
I say that knowing once I finish God of War, I'm probably going to keep playing Gotham Knights. Because there's enough to intrigue me to keep going, especially like, all the Easter eggy stuff. But right now my brain's just elsewhere.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. Mind you, I went from Dragon Ball Breakers to this, so my brain just went Dragon Ball to Batman. I'm riding a cloud, man. Like, sweet.
Yeah,
I need to get onto Dragon Ball Breakers.
Yeah, we got a code for that too.
I haven't touched it since the closed network testing. I did not enjoy it then. I have a feeling nothing much has changed.
But anyways, thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We appreciate you taking the time to listen to us talk about Gotham Knights in this episode of More the Players, a supplementary episode that we do very infrequently when we want to deep dive into something. And of course, big thank you to yourself, Dudi, for joining and coming and having the chat. Where can the people find you?
If people want to find me, for whatever reason, you can find me on Twitter at Dame_Dudi_Dench. It's
one of the best handles I've ever seen. I chuckled so hard when I saw that.
I caught up with some friends for the first time at PAX, and like they actually met me, and they were just like, "Oh, so this is what you look like." And I'm like, "What did you expect me to look like?" They're like, with that tag, I wasn't expecting that. I'm like, okay, yeah. And if you want to check me out on YouTube, it's Dudi, just Dudi. Again, the logo is Piccolo and Tien fused together from Dragon Ball. And my most recent video is Gotham Knights, and I'm going to talk about Black Adam next.
Ooh, exciting. I'm going to see that tomorrow night. Can't wait.
Ooh, have fun.
Thanks for
Stick around for the mid-credits.
Fuck you, Max.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah, and I'm saying...
You could have if you hadn't invited me. Fuck.
I could have got some hot cinema action. All right, Max, send them home.
All right, everyone. You want the normal spiel?
Yeah.
This has been an extra episode, everyone, but if you want to catch our regularly scheduled content, you know where to find it. Monday... podcast services 8 a.m. Spotify and the Apple Podcasts and 9 a.m. on those YouTubes. And if you'd like to take part in future conversations with us, you can check it out all our socials: Facebook, Discord, Instagram, Twitter. Our handles are up above our heads today. That's exciting. The links are also in the below area. Go check it out.
So if you want to join us as the conversation happens, head over to twitch.tv/thepopculturists, where you can watch us record this show live, where you can jump in the chat and become part of the show. If you want to support the show, you can tell your friends, tell your family about this PlayStation podcast. If you're listening on podcast services, be sure to give us a 5-star rating and a written review. If you are on YouTube, be sure to subscribe, with a comment below. I endeavor to answer every single comment. If you want to support us financially, you can at patreon.com/thepopculturists, as well as our merchandise store, popculturists.com/shop. Where you can buy our shirts and sorted shit with our logos on it. That guy Ange, good night person in the middle. Are you in my? That's Ange, is my housemate. Are you like in the house?
He's inside the house.
Oh my god!
What's your favorite Batman family member?
Yeah, but until next week, until next time, I guess. I'm Ryan Betson.
I'm Max Cooper.
It's your turn.
Oh, it's my turn. Yeah. Oh, I'm Dudi.
And that was our Gotham Knights review.